Your sense of time is a lie. The fax machine is older than the telephone. Mammoths were alive when the pyramids rose. And by number 12, Cleopatra's real place in history. Your brain will simply break. 12 documented facts that will shatter how you picture time. Let's go. Picture a Victorian office, gas lamps flickering. Now imagine a machine that scans a page and sends the image down a wire. You'd guess that came after the telephone, right? Wrong. Scottish inventor Alexander Bain patented the first fax machine in 1843, 33 years before Alexander Graham Bell ever spoke into a telephone in 1876. So while your great-great-grandparents were still writing letters by candlelight, the technology to transmit a picture across the country already existed. The fax didn't follow the phone. It beat it by more than 3 decades. Your office relic is older than the ringtone. When you think of Nintendo, you picture pixels, plumbers, and glowing screens. So here's a jolt. Nintendo is older than sliced bread. The company was founded in Kyoto, Japan, on September 23, 1889, making hand-painted playing cards for traditional games. That was the era of horse-drawn carriages and gas lamps. Pre-sliced bread, meanwhile, didn't reach stores until 1928, when Otto Roeder's slicing machine debuted in Missouri. So the company behind Mario and Zelda had already existed for nearly 40 years before anyone thought to slice a loaf. The greatest thing since sliced bread is actually younger than Nintendo. Here's a puzzle that sounds impossible. Canned food was invented in 1810, when Englishman Peter Durand patented sealing food inside tin. Armies loved it. Durable, portable, long-lasting. There was just one problem. Nobody invented a proper can opener until 1858. That's 48 years of canned food with no real way to open it. So how did people get in? Hammers, chisels, bayonets. Soldiers literally stabbed their dinner open, and some early cans instructed you to cut around the top with a chisel. The solution arrived almost half a century after the problem. We sealed food shut before figuring out how to unseal it. Oxford University feels ancient, and the Aztec Empire feels ancient too. But one is dramatically older. Teaching at Oxford dates back to at least 1096, and by 1249, it was a fully established university. Now the Aztecs, their capital, Tenochtitlan, wasn't founded until 1325. That means Oxford scholars had been lecturing for over 200 years before the Aztec Empire even began. While we imagine the Aztecs as a lost, primeval world, students were already earning degrees at Oxford when the very first stone of Tenochtitlan was laid. The Old World University predates the New World Empire by centuries. You probably think video calling was born with smartphones, Skype, FaceTime, Zoom. Try 1936. In Germany, the Reichspost launched a public video telephone service connecting Berlin and Leipzig. For a fee, citizens walked into a special booth, sat before a screen and camera, and saw the person they were talking to on the other end, live, in real time. This was more than 80 years before your first Zoom meeting, running on cables and cathode ray tubes. The service operated until 1940, so the futuristic dream of seeing a caller's face wasn't new. Your grandparents' grandparents could have made a video call. America's oldest university predates one of the most fundamental branches of math. Harvard was founded in 1636 in colonial Massachusetts, back when the printing press was still cutting edge and telescopes were brand new. Calculus, the mathematics of change that powers physics, engineering, and modern science, didn't exist yet. Isaac Newton wouldn't develop his version until the 1660s, and Gottfried Leibniz published his notation in 1684. So Harvard had already been graduating students for decades before calculus was invented. The institution is older than the math its students now stay up all night struggling to pass. Higher education outran the higher math. The guillotine feels like a relic of the French Revolution, powdered wigs, angry mobs, 1793. So brace yourself. France was still executing people by guillotine in 1977. The last man beheaded, Hamida Jandoubi, was executed at a Marseille prison on September 10, 1977. To put that in perspective, Star Wars was in theaters. Apple had just been founded. The Voyager probes were launching toward the outer planets. And in France, the state was still dropping a blade on a condemned man's neck. Capital punishment wasn't abolished there until 1981. The revolutionary execution machine survived into the age of personal computers. Sharks are so perfectly evolved they've barely changed in eons. But just how old are they? Older than trees. Sharks first appeared in Earth's oceans around 450 million years ago. Real, woody, towering trees didn't spread across the land until roughly 390 million years ago. That's a gap of about 60 million years in which sharks already prowled the seas while the land had no forests at all, just mosses and low plants. Sharks are also older than Saturn's rings and older than the North Star. These ancient predators were cruising the water before the first tree ever cast a shadow. The pyramids and woolly mammoths feel like they belong to completely different chapters of history. Mammoths in the frozen ice age, pyramids in ancient Egypt. But their timelines overlap. The Great Pyramid of Giza was completed around 2560 BC. Meanwhile, a small population of woolly mammoths survived on Wrangel Island in the Arctic Ocean until roughly 1650 BC. That means that for nearly 1,000 years after the pyramids were finished, actual mammoths were still walking the earth. Egyptians were writing hieroglyphs, worshipping pharaohs, and raising monuments while living, breathing mammoths roamed a remote island. The Ice Age giants outlived the pyramids' construction. Pluto takes about 248 years to make a single trip around the sun. Now think about this. Pluto was discovered by Clyde Tombaugh in 1930. It was reclassified from planet to dwarf planet in 2006. That's just 76 years, meaning from the moment we found Pluto to the moment we demoted it, Pluto hadn't completed even a third of one orbit. In fact, Pluto won't finish the loop it was on when we discovered it until the year 2178. So no human alive when Pluto was found will ever see it return to where it started. We named it and unnamed it in a cosmic blink. This one rearranges your entire mental map of dinosaurs. We tend to picture T-Rex and Stegosaurus as neighbors, stomping around together. They weren't even close. Stegosaurus lived around 150 million years ago. Tyrannosaurus rex didn't appear until about 66 million years ago. That's a gap of roughly 84 million years between the two. Here's the gut punch. You, sitting here right now, live only 66 million years after T-Rex. That means you are closer in time to Tyrannosaurus rex than T-Rex ever was to Stegosaurus, by nearly 20 million years. The most famous dinosaur duo never actually met. And T-Rex is practically your contemporary. And here's the one that breaks everyone. Cleopatra, the legendary last pharaoh of Egypt, feels like the very definition of ancient history. We lump her in with the pyramids. But the Great Pyramid of Giza was already around 2,500 years old when Cleopatra was born. She lived closer in time to the first moon landing than to the construction of the pyramids she ruled beside. Cleopatra died in 30 BC. The pyramids were built around 2560 BC, roughly 2,500 years before her. Apollo 11 landed in 1969, just under 2,000 years after her. The Queen of ancient Egypt is closer to us than to her own monuments. So mammoths outlived the pyramids' builders, and Cleopatra is closer to us than to them. If time just bent, subscribe. We break your brain with a new fact every week. Starting with, why is the fax older than the phone?